All right, guys. My name is Ryan Montalto. Welcome to Family First Life Southeast Call. We do this every Thursday night. Special today. This is going to be one of our first that we've done in the Orlando studio down here in the Family First Life Orlando Lake Mary office. Today we got special guests. We got Dan Chernati. Dan's been blown. Oh man, we got sound effects too. That's awesome. But today we got Daniel Chernati in here. Daniel's been with us for what, about 6 months?
Full time for 6 months. This is my seventh.
Full time 6 months, and then this month you just hit senior sales manager, right?
Correct.
And senior sales manager is 100,000 in issue paid volume.
Is that a question or stay? Yes, that is. Yeah.
That's pretty good. So that's awesome. I mean, to be in here 6 months and to be able to achieve that quick. Not only that, you've been writing, I mean, consistently between $30,000 and $50,000 in issue paid volume a month. So what I wanted to kind of go over today was a little bit of, how did you get into insurance? Because, I mean, you didn't wake up one day and say, man, I dreamed to be an insurance guy. I want to be an insurance guy. That didn't happen, did it?
No, not at all.
So tell us a little bit about where you came from, what field you came from, how did you get into insurance? And then we'll kind of go on how you started becoming really successful in those first 90 days personally with personal issue production. And then some of the things that you changed, some of the things that you've done, some of the things that you want to change and do. And then also, how are you juggling, becoming a top producer and to become a top manager too?
Okay, perfect. So I guess I'll start with where I began. I was a data analyst, going kind of to the end. But before that, I did the whole let's go to a lot of school and get in a lot of debt and then use something or go do something that's not necessarily related to what I was doing to get a paycheck. I just assumed that was what folks did. That's how you get a safe job. And that's how you make a life. And after a few months, about a year, I started looking for stuff different to do because I knew that that's not where I wanted to be. That felt like a rat race to me. Because one day my boss even goes, yeah, Dan, if you do this for like the next X amount of years, you'll end up making like 150, 200,000. I'm like, next how many years? So I was like, that's not going to work. So I was looking for an out for a while. And I didn't know it was going to be insurance when I first got into insurance. I was just looking for something that was a low barrier to entry, something that was fairly cheap to get into, that I could start building my people skills. And I had no idea that I would end up over here. I was talking to Athena one day, and she was telling me how much her agents are making. I'm like, are you serious? Like, no way. So I took my birthday weekend back in September. I took that off, and I got my license right before that. And I took off my birthday weekend. The first Saturday that I went out in the field, I closed the first 3 sales. The first 3 appointments, I closed them all. I was like, heck yeah. And then I didn't really think it was real yet. But the next Tuesday, I saw the money hit my bank account. And I made almost as much in Saturday afternoon than a full month at my job. So I'm like, you know what? That's real. I just help people too, which is really cool. That's something that's important to me, helping people. And I was in like healthcare, which was really cool because I was doing like really neat stuff, but I wasn't on the front lines feeling I was actually helping and making a difference. And that was something that was really cool, that when I go out there and we protect people, like they just told you what's going to happen if they don't have anything in place. So for me, that was just really rewarding. And I'm able to provide for myself and my family a lot by doing something that I feel like I'm giving back, and I am giving back. So that was really important to me. And so the next day I put in my 2 weeks notice. And I did what you would recommend not to do. I worked the rest of November. So I did actually pretty well in November. This is my first full month. I did about 27,000 in issue paid my first month. And then I pretty much took December and part of January off.
Took a vacation.
Yeah, it was poor timed because it was when I thought I was still be in my other job. So I had all this stuff pre-booked, and I'm not yes, I guess I took a vacation for all intents and purposes. But then I came back and I moved to Jersey to be closer to family. And
is that where you're from originally?
Yeah, so I'm from New Jersey originally. Little small town, a little farm that I grew up on. And then, I went to school in South Carolina and North Carolina. And then, I did the corporate W-2 type job. But I try to be closer to my family. Just move back. I'm not going to tell them I missed them, but I missed them, So I try to move back closer to them. And then it wasn't working for the first 2 weeks. Like I knew I didn't have much money coming into this because I was spending every dollar, and I needed something to work. So I moved back down to South Carolina.
Was this after the vacation?
Yeah, yes.
So is it fair to say, like, you had some early success, you took that money, and then you kind of took off, and then you try to recapture that same success really quick? I think a lot of new agents, and then this is one thing to kind of like talk about, because I think a lot of people, when they're new, they're making more money. You said you made more money in a weekend than you did your whole month at the job as a data analyst that you spent so much money and borrowed so much money for student loans and stuff for. So you had a lot of success at the beginning, and it made it easier, because, I mean, if you were still at that other job, that vacation would have been a little bit harder. I mean, you might not have taken it, or if you did it, you were on a budget, which, vacations on a budget are not that fun. But so you decided then to move home after you kind of taken the time off. And then was it hard to you felt it might have been the area, but do you think it was a little bit of the area, but most likely it was because you started, then you stopped, and you had that lull? It's like you had to start that machine back over again.
Yeah, 100%. I lost my momentum. And something I'm quickly realizing in this business, you need momentum. If you stop it, you got to get it going again. But if you have a ball in motion stays in motion, or however that saying goes, it's a lot easier to keep it going. But when you stop it, it takes a lot much more energy to get it back up and going. So I definitely lost a lot of momentum there. Then when I moved back down to South Carolina, where I was comfortable, after a week or two, I picked up the momentum again. But I had to work a lot harder to get to where I was.
So you almost had a double time. Going back, you said you talked to Athena. Did you know Athena personally?
Nope.
What ad did you answer?
It's either ZipRecruiter or Indeed. One of those two.
So you were farming out your resume.
I was looking so much for the last 4 or 5 months, and I found Family First Life, and I was looking at all the Glassdoor reviews, because I was big on reviews. I was like, this can't be true. There can't be 512 people that 4.8 of them answered 5 stars. That can't happen.
So it was almost too good to be true.
Yeah. But it is that good.
It is if you go to work.
Yeah.
So just a little bit, because it's because you're so new and you're only in your 6 to 7 months here with us. It's still fresh in your mind of how you got hired. And what kind of stuck out to you? You said the reviews, which is awesome. I think everybody that's trying to hire should put the Glassdoor reviews on, at least, one of the little hyperlinks down there, and put that on their advertising, because, I mean, those reviews do help, or at least what it did is it made you pick up the phone and say, hey, is this true that you've got a 4.89, 500 people saying they love what they do here at Family First Life? What else kind of stuck out at you? Maybe the advertising. Was it the money? Was it the time? Was it, owning your own business?
So I'm trying to think. I knew I wanted to get into Final Expense, because I was what the Mark Mead would say, that the tea and crumpet guy that just wanted to go be best friends with the old folks, and I thought I could do well that way, and I quickly realized that that's not what that's not what they're looking for, and that's not how you do well here. So I knew Final Expense, but I also go into Grady Polson's point, where you want to pique curiosity, and a lot of these ads that FFL has, it piqued my curiosity a lot. It's not just, hey, come join our workforce and work for Family First Life, and they did a really good job at piquing curiosity and getting me to the next step, which was picking up the phone or sending in my resume and having them call me. And then I'm trying to think. That's really it. I farmed my resume out to a few other companies. I won't name any, but I just didn't feel, honestly, the sense of family that was going on here, and the realness. Something that really stood out in the interviews was just people being real. A lot of the other companies I interviewed with, there was some cookie cutter stuff that I was like, this is almost back to my W-2 job. I just kind of felt very structured and rigid. And not to say this isn't structured at all, but it was more just, hey, you're going to have to work. This is what you're going to have to do. If you want to be successful, I'll show you how. But you got to actually go to work. And I really appreciated that, because that was being real. It wasn't painting some picture and throwing me a curveball when I got on board. It was this is what you're going to have to do, and you just got to go do it. And I appreciate that a lot. And
it's funny you bring that up, because when I hear you talk to new agents, I hear you talk to them about the same thing. So it's like Mike always says it too. You hire people the way you got hired. So what you heard is what you are telling back to people, because I hear you talk to new agents all the time, new agents that you're talking to, that you're going to have to go to work. This is not going to be easy. You're going to have to go to work. So kind of going back to the first 90 days. So first month out, 27, took a vacation. Now we're back. Now we're back in South Carolina. Um, how did you get? Because I think that first full month, then you wrote almost another 30,000, right?
47.
47. Okay, sorry, I shortchanged it.
44, 41 of those two. Yeah.
So I mean, so now your second full month in the field, you're writing 42,000. Help some of the newer agents or some of the agents that are wanting to know how to maybe break that bubble of the 15 to 20, 25,000. How did they get to that 30 to 40,000? And then how did you do it so quickly?
I trusted the process, which is something that's hard for me to do, but I saw other agents doing it and having a lot of success. And I talked to Easton and Zach a lot. So I think a lot of it also was reaching out to folks that are where you want to be and just do what they tell you to do. So I was talking to them and like also like Leffels, and you just trust the system. And there was even a point where I was frustrated that I wasn't getting the results that I had. And I talked to Leffels and he goes, dude, you got no right to be disappointed because you sat in like 30 appointments. You haven't gotten to 100 yet. Focus on getting to that 100. And then once we have that 100, you have a sample size we actually have to work with. So I just put my head down and got to that 100. But getting from like that 20, 25 to 40,000 a month, a lot of it came down to buying leads. Like I used to hate the answer when hey, how much do you spend on leads? And I go, I don't know. I just see them come in. I'm at that point where I don't know what I spend on leads anymore. Like I have a rough idea, but on a weekly basis, I don't know. I just see them come in and I go to work. So not taking a step back, I probably buy about like 50 final expense leads a week. I do have some mortgage that are coming out. Sorry, 50 per dial day. When I was doing the like $6,000-7,000 a week, I was, I don't know, getting like 60 to 70 final expense leads. I upped my lead budget. So, hey, I can go do this because I understand this is how much money I'm going to make per appointment. So if I get this many more leads, I can book that many more appointments. I can make X amount more dollars. So I started doing that and just investing in more leads. And when I first started doing that, I was taking the low-hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't working as hard. Well, I was working as hard as I was, but when you buy more leads, you got to work harder. Mm-hmm. You can't just buy more leads and pick off the low-hanging fruit, which is what I was doing for a little while. You got to, if you're buying double the amount of leads, you got to work twice as hard. And by working twice as hard, then you start getting twice the results. And that was just something I had to be real with myself because I wasn't working as hard. I was booking a few extra appointments and I was just doing it easier because I had more fresh leads. I wasn't spending all day dialing, and I had to go back to basics, being like, hey, if I want to issue pay this much, I have to dial all day long. And I just started doing that, and with all the leads I had, and would start going from 30 appointments a week to 40, and that's where the numbers went up.
So coming from a W-2 where you were an employee for somebody else, and then having to come in and run your own business, which is what we're doing here as a 1099, how uncomfortable was it for you to buy leads at first? How did that sit? How did you, the uncomfortability, but how did you come to know that more leads equals more appointments equals more money in your bank account?
At first, it was really nerve-wracking to be dumping money into something. Because the first few weeks, I got my money back, but I wasn't making money. But it was all about the learning experience. And I saw the amount of money that I could be making, and I was real with myself. With a lot of the appointments, I should have been closing, but I wasn't. So I understood, hey, if I just get one extra sale a week over the course of a month, that adds up to a lot of money. But just kind of digging into, repeat the question one more time.
So you were basically breaking even.
Yes.
You know, and then, so it was uncomfortable at first, but you knew if you kept plugging away that it would just keep getting better. So you kept adding more to it.
Yep.
Correct?
Yes. So, okay. This is what I was going to say. John Wetmore, he's big into numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Trust the numbers. So I just trusted the numbers. You know, it's hard taking a leap of faith, but there's a lot of folks in positions where I want to be, and they took that leap because they trusted the system. So I just trusted John. He goes, dude, believe in the numbers. So I bought a bunch of leads, and I went to work. Mm-hmm. Literally as simple as that.
So the thing is, you're buying these leads, and you're going to work. Like you didn't know anything about life insurance. So you're almost on the job training. So it is uncomfortable to kind of have that break-even point. But then all of a sudden, like you said, just one simple thing, like let's just add one more policy a week. Let's get that one more policy. Doesn't mean you sit at home wishing that you got that one more policy. You had to go out there and work. But not only that, what I love about you, too, is you've plugged into the system, and you've talked about it at least 3 or 4 times here in the last little bit. What exactly do you think plugging into the system is for a new agent or an agent that wants to know what you're doing?
So one, getting on all of the training calls. That's something that I did not do at the beginning. And because I was like, oh, I have to go, I have to go make money. So I need to get on that 11 o'clock appointment on Friday. I have to go on the appointment versus get on the training call. After a few weeks, I quickly realized that I'm losing money every time I'm not on one of those calls. I'm losing more money than I would have been making. So one, getting involved in the training calls. If there's WhatsApp groups, Marco Polos, be active in them. Marco Polo is definitely one of the biggest tools that I used to get better, because as soon as you ask a question on there, you got 5 experts jumping on and saying, hey, this is what I would have done. And you get a lot of different vantage points. So being active, but then also reaching out to folks. I think that's something that I did a lot. I probably blew Athena's phone up a lot at the beginning, but I was able to implement what she told me to do. And I think that's one of the big things there in terms of plugging in, is also implementing what you're learning. Not just going out there and asking a bunch of questions, but implementing the questions that you ask. And I mean, say, like, get involved in the Southeast group. Like, start posting your simple stuff. Like, post your numbers in the Southeast group. Like, start small.
Yeah.
And that's what I started doing. I was like, when I first started posting my numbers in the group, I was like, it's kind of weird, right? But it's small stuff like that goes a long way. It's something else I tell a lot of my agents is, when you go out there, you got to treat this thing like a business. And if you don't have business cards, there's probably a lot of other stuff that you're not doing in terms of not treating like a business. So even though a business card's a small thing, right, a lot of those small things add up. So just doing small stuff like plugging into, posting numbers in WhatsApp or any Slack channels that y'all have, and posting numbers in the Southeast, just getting active and understanding who's doing what, and then start reaching out to those people.
And that's one of the things I think also that you've done when you talk about reaching out to managers or other agents. Like, where did you find those numbers? How did you get those people?
I asked.
You asked too.
Athena, I asked people that I was reaching out to, hey, whose number is this? Like, or how do I get Ryan's number? Or use Facebook. There's everyone's everyone's on Facebook that's pretty much in the Southeast. I would message people on Facebook Messenger. Say, hey, I see you putting up cool numbers. I want to get there. What's your number? I want to talk to you. And people talk, and we want to help.
Nobody gave you any negativity. Nobody told you no. No, did they?
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just taking that leap, that uncomfortability of reaching out to somebody that maybe you've never met, never talked to, but knowing you want to get to that point. You made that commitment that you're going to do that because it's your business. If you didn't, your business would fail. But I think a lot of people think they can't do that because somebody might say no. They might not answer back. But I'll tell you what, at Family First Life, everybody answers their phone. Anybody at the top level definitely answers their phone. So I mean, I think that's huge for a lot of new agents, that they can reach out to anybody on those manager lists, anybody that they hear on the top of the leaderboards, they're going to answer their phone. And one of those phone calls was to me. I do remember. And then we've talked about it, and we've talked about now you're in South Carolina and you're doing well there. You're paying that $30,000 to $50,000 from there. What was the next big move that you had to make to get your business to the next level?
I moved to Orlando, just kind of cutting to the chase. But I mean, there was a lot of room for growth where I was. But down here in Orlando, it's very centrally located to a lot of big cities. And I knew we just got the office down here. So I called you up, I think, and I go, Ryan, what would you do? And you said, I would move to Orlando. So I think the next week I packed my bags and I moved to Orlando. And it was kind of interesting just getting used to the new environment and atmosphere down here, because a lot's changing, but business is the same. People are the same. All the leads, same people. So it's pretty easy just to kind of pick up and start off where I left.
So this is pretty much the second big leap of faith in 6 months that you've had with your business. First is taking the leap into Family First Life, believing all the positive things that you heard that are true, and you're starting to get that and start to get going. Then you made that leap to, just pick up and move, not only just from further away from New Jersey, which is your home, but then South Carolina, North Carolina, where you had a lot of people, and a lot of people that you didn't know. You came to Orlando, knew no one, didn't know where you were going to get leads. So tell them how you built that up real quick on how you got leads in areas that you're not familiar with.
Right. So, first thing going back is I want to answer real quick is why would I have not made the move? We got a vehicle all over FFL that's really cool, and if there's opportunities up there that if I work really hard right now, it's going to pay off in a few years, and you just got to go to work. So I was like, why would I not move down here? So that's the first thing. And in terms of buying leads, it's final expense.
Mhm.
You get on Facebook or you get on Game Time or any of the vendors and you say, hey, I want leads, and they give you leads. So I didn't really have an issue with that. So I started out with that, and then you mentioned that we did have some mortgage areas down here, which is something that I wanted to get involved in because now that I started doing well in the final expense, I wanted to expand the tools that I had, and as part of that would be in more mortgage protection appointments. And you said you got some areas down here, and we talked, and I started taking on a few of those, and now I'm just like, where's the next county I can take over, and where's the next one? And it's just really cool what we have down here and what you've built down here too, so to help out a lot of the agents that are getting going.
Absolutely. Sorry. So next, one of the greatest things I've seen you do too in the last 6 months is you started to build and almost build from day one. And when I'm talking about building, I'm talking about hiring. Like, how do you juggle both hiring and running, business at a, high caliber, 30, 40, 50,000?
At first, it was a struggle, right? I mean, I think being comfortable that it's going to be a struggle is something that you just have to accept, especially from day one. And the struggle's going to get easier, but there's always going to be room for growth. And I was just going back to a lot of folks said that I'd ask them, hey, what's one thing you wish you did earlier? So they said hiring. So I started going out there just like I made a mess with final expense. So I started going out there and making a mess with the hiring. And I started hiring people that I probably wouldn't have been a good fit. And I was convincing them to work here rather than, them convincing me why they would be a good fit. But each layer of complexity, the more you do it, becomes normal. So now if I wasn't doing as much as I'm doing, I kind of feel like I'm at a loss. Like I'd feel lost because I'm not working as hard. So it took a little time, but I would have to set a structure for myself when I'd be calling hiring leads versus, insurance leads. So I just had to set myself the proper structure so that I'm not, juggling too many things at the same exact time.
What does that structure look like?
So when I first started, it was just me. Before I had an admin or staff, it was just me. And in the morning between 8 and 12, nothing stopped me from dialing the phones to set up appointments because the appointment's my cash flow. If I don't have the cash flow, I can't spend money on ZipRecruiter and Indeed and LinkedIn and all that stuff. So I needed the cash flow. So between 8 and 12, I'm dialing. And then there'd be, I'd get a quick lunch. So back by 12:30, between 12:30 and 1:30, I'd do my admin stuff. Between about 1:30 to 3, I'm calling all my hiring leads and going through that whole entire list. And then at the end of the day, the rest of the day, I'd be dialing. And as my phone script got better for insurance clients, I was able to start dedicating more time throughout the day to calling people to interview. And I first started conducting interviews on dial day, which was not a good idea for me because I was running into my dial time. So now I just schedule interviews all the time during my run days. So I run an appointment every hour on the hour. Every time I'm in the car, I have an interview. And that's when I conduct my interviews. I'm typically driving like 15, 20 minutes away. My interviews take no more than 10, 15 minutes. And that works out perfectly and just kind of actually keeps my day moving along pretty darn quickly.
Do you give them a window?
Yes, I think that's very important. Just as I started giving the insurance, like my clients, a window, I'll be there between 8 and 9. So this way, if I'm, I know that I'm going to be there at 8:30. But if I'm 15 minutes late on my watch, I'm still on time on theirs. So the same thing holds true for the interviews. I'm always giving them a window time, like, hey, I'll be calling you between 8:30 and 9:30. And I just let them know that, hey, I'm out in the field all day long. Like, I'm an agent as well. So we just got to, give a little window, and they understand it. If you set the right expectation, they get it.
Mike always talks about it, and I love it too, hiring people on run days instead of your dial days. Like, when you make a big sale, like, how good does your voice or how much conviction about how this works, how does that sound to those new agents?
It's great. And then you can use that as also like a story right in the interview. Hey, I just got out of like a big sale. I just made like $3,000 in 30 minutes. What comp level do they have yet? I wouldn't actually say that like, in those words, but it does provide a lot of power because now you love what you do and you're getting paid for it and you want to share the opportunity with others because it could very easily have been that person on the phone making that sale if he just came and worked for us
Absolutely.
or with us.
How long did it take you to get an admin?
So when I started back in January, I think I hired my first staff in about middle of February,
Mm-hmm.
and then by end of February they were gone. And then I just
So you hired and then fired someone.
yes.
Why did you let him go?
I was talking to Zach T and Athena about it a lot. About it, they were just saying, "Hey, you need to get an admin because you're starting to sell and you want to build." So I was like, "Okay, I gotta go get an admin now." And they also cautioned me as soon as it's starting to not go well, you got to have the talk sooner rather than later, or it's gonna fester into something that's a bigger problem for yourself because it's your business and you got to take care of it. So my hiring numbers just completely went away. So I was like, and she knew it was results driven, and she knew that if she's not producing, I told her, I made that an expectation clear that it's probably just going to not work out. No hard feelings. It's just like we're results driven. So she got it. Like it was very, mutual understanding. And about just a few weeks later, I brought on actually my cousin, and he's been crushing it with us. It's awesome. Last month we ended up hiring 49 people,
That's awesome.
which was amazing. The next step is to fine tune it and get those 49 people issue paying. So that's something that we have to work on now moving forward.
Absolutely. So kind of in closing, just for anybody out there, help them with just one thing that you would do different in the first 6 months or that you're going to do different in the next 6 months. How are you going to get to, that 150, 200? What are you going to do different to get to there or the 350 and beyond?
That is a loaded question.
Pretty loaded.
So something I know I need to do a better job as is that implementing what I'm learning on the hiring side. Because the hiring side is just like sales, right? You're always going to get, not necessarily objections, but you're going to, there's always been the next thing you have to learn, right? How to actually, help someone out. The same thing on the hiring process. I got to do a better job at implementing processes. So just simple stuff like onboarding people, like setting up a better structure for them to get onboarded so that they can confidently be like, okay, this makes sense. I just have to do X, Y, and Z, and, I'll be up and running in no time. So I need to do a better job at that. And I think just doing small things like that, it's not like, a big epiphany, like, oh, I'm great at this now. It's just, reaching out to folks like yourself. I was reaching out to Dom, John, Zach T, Athena, and implementing what they're telling me to do on the hiring side as well. I think I've been lacking there. And that's why, I hired 49 people, but I don't think, I'm not getting enough of them to write business. So if I can just make some small changes to actually onboard folks a bit better, I think that'll make a big difference in the long run.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to see when you hit vice president, brother.
Thanks, dude.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.